Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. But perhaps the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. He said to himself,
I have to find some way to stop Christmas from coming.
For on Christmas Day the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early to play with their toys, and they'd make too much noise. Then the Whos young and old would sit down to a feast of Who pudding and rare Who roast beef. Then when the Christmas bells started to ring, the Whos would join hands and they'd sing, sing, sing. The more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. But how? The Grinch had an idea. To steal Christmas from the Whos, he'd need a disguise, a Santa suit and hat to hide from their eyes. He called his dog Max, Max! And with some red thread he fastened an antler onto his head. The Grinch got a sleigh and some old empty sacks and sneaked into Whoville, pulled along by Max. And he slid down each chimney even though it was a pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He visited every house in Whoville and took every present. He slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. He stole all the food, the stockings, and with glee he said, Now I'm going to steal the tree. The Grinch grabbed the tree, started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the sound of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree, why? But you know that old Grinch was so sly and so slick that he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child, then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Whos' houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Whos' mouses. He took all that he'd stolen up the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Whos down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That is a noise that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing, without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other it came just the same. Maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart, his heart grew 3 sizes that day, and the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast.